Hello. I just wanted to pop in with some quick insight that was on my mind, and it's a little bit. I had made a couple other videos where sometimes I know what I want to say, but then I kind of I follow some foot trails, and then I with the intention of getting back to the first point, and sometimes that works out, and sometimes I get lost. So that might be the greatest lesson in life. Shall you take a foot trail, you might get back and you might not. But I had made one where I was talking about these two dancers that I've known in my life, that had a very similar demeanor that I could perceive that I would perceive that demeanor the same way whether or not I ever saw them dance. And for one of them, I had actually perceived that demeanor. I had perceived something of greatness in this person very recently, over a year or two. And then it's simply in the manner of eye contact, in the manner of engagement, in the manner of respect. When someone accepts you, it is perhaps the par excellence of respect is not yes, my fine lord, I shall bow thee and tender these my earnest labors that were fashioned with none else but your likeness in mind. For thy are the Lord of the realm, most worthy. And just however ridiculous that sounds, but then someone who just accepts you is that's the coldest thing right there. And I think sometimes, like, when you look at different people that are like that live rough lifestyles, um the lifestyle is real and it's like that, but what had maybe brought them into that lifestyle, what actually what they, when you do certain things, certain things come with certain things, and it's like, why on earth would you do something where you can end up in one of two places? Why on earth would you do that? And to think that people that do that kind of stuff would not be aware that what comes with that is that just because someone is on the other side of the law doesn't mean they're not intelligent. But all I meant to say is, what could be so compelling as to make a person embrace that form of lifestyle? Um, when they embrace that lifestyle, they may not actually truly understand what comes with that, because we can't understand certain things until we experience that. But on a level, you actually can have an understanding of what you're flirting with. And I would say that it's simply being accepted. Sometimes these people from rough backgrounds, they know what that hard life is about, and they know what life is about, and they know what a lot of people that could spit in your face and care less about you, do your best, bring your best, and we don't care, you suck. That's the way that most, if not all, people are approaching people. And then it might be one or two people that actually accept you on a level, which I don't know that someone would accept you and then expose you to what's not in your best interest. But by and large, it's a high degree of acceptance. Um, a lot of times, and I want to say that's the coldest thing right there. That's the most awesome thing. You talk about awesome, this most high, this, does someone accept you? That's awesome right there. We don't need more or less than that. Does someone accept us? And there was these two dancers that I knew. The one dancer, his name was Grasshopper, and he was a bad man in high school. He had like I once went out to I was cool enough to go to a nightclub in high school, like that was for like it was like a nightclub where they had like youth night, like in the big city. And I was so green that I probably didn't know how I probably didn't know what kind of I didn't know where I was, to put it like that, being that green. But being that green, it's all good too, because if you're green enough not to know where you are somewhere, then you might actually be green enough to have a good time and not step on anyone's shoes. So it was all good. It was a good time. But I saw him, this grasshopper that I knew, I had known him from a few years back, and he was out there uh, 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 he was out there cutting a dance floor, and he was cold. They were playing that song, North Carolina, come on. Is it that I think it's like Petey Pablo or something like that, when that song North Carolina came from. That no less, I've shouted out another YouTuber a couple of times on this channel, who's, I think he's from that region, and so that might be a cold region. I'm not trying to blast any region above or below anywhere else, but I just meant that I actually have recently seen a cold YouTuber from North Carolina, and then this song way back in the day, as that YouTuber would say, back in the gap. That song North Carolina came on by Petey Pablo in this hole in the wall nightclub for youth, and my friend Grasshopper was up there cutting a rug. But before that, I had met him at in middle school, because in middle school I was an outcast. I've been an outcast without, you can't say certain things without sounding conceited. But so with that being said, I've been an outcast my whole life, and especially no more so than in middle school, seventh grade, the hardest. And so, but there, I had went to this the support group for young students who already had parents who were alcoholics, and I met him in their grasshopper. And I didn't know how great he was back then. Maybe he didn't know how great he was back then, but he was cool back then, and he always rocked with me just because he had met me in that in that place, and he always had like a level of respect. There used to be this thing called muff. And I don't know if they what the history of this is, but like in my high school, like if you made a certain gesture with your fingers, and then you just held your fingers out somewhere, like you just held your hand next to you, like so you have your hand in this position, but you didn't advertise it, and then your friend, someone lays their hand on, they lay eyes on your hand in that position, then you owe them a muff, and they have to let you like push their head like they're an idiot. And then I had another friend, another bad friend who he was another person who actually accepted me one time when I had been I had it's interesting, a lot of your real friends, they'll actually step up when you're being mocked, ridiculed, or assaulted somehow. I noticed that with a lot of friends. But this I had been this I was sitting next to I mentioned another video, I had a friend from the deep south who was younger than me, but we were in the same grade, and he was seasoned already when we were young. And I was sitting next to him in social studies class, and then this girl was like, damn it, that's my seat. And it's kind of hard for a young boy, because back then I grew up around sports, and I was coordinated. I could get down with anyone on a basketball court, and I could probably throw hands if I had to, or I could think of a way to I could think of a way to get over on a person if I had to at that age. But a boy may not know how to approach a girl at a young age, because if the girl is adamant, because as a boy sometimes you don't know how to engage a female, and also females are more they can be more more animated than a male. Like I've seen different criminals say that they would hesitate to approach a female before they would hesitate to approach a male, because in some ways I think females, they might not have their it's strange, but I think females might not have their instincts beat out of them the same way as a boy, because boys are humiliated their whole life by other boys, and also by parents and by teachers and by leadership. Boys are largely humiliated most of their life, and then the ones who can manage that and be effective in that might be some of your outstanding types, at least at certain points. But I think that boys are by and large humiliated. So even by the time of high school, a lot of our real instincts in nature are already deprived. You could almost say that education exists for nothing else but to detrain our instincts towards this arbitrary being civilized and cultured, which is yet more brutal than any degree of nature, in my opinion, and more savage is civilized. But yet but we do have our instincts beat up out of us as boys. So when I had by the time I had had this experience of getting checked out of my seat as though I was sitting at the front of a bus, and the person was my same my same ethnicity, but my friend he had my back when I came back over where he was. He's like, man, I wouldn't have set up for that, bro. But and he meant it too. He was cold like that. But I learned a lot with him. But he had this other one. It was that same game, but like you make a different symbol with your head, with your hand, and then someone owes you 10 bobs, and it looks a little bit similar to oral sex, like when they do that. So it's kind of childish and distasteful, but it's the kind of stuff we did. But this other friend, Grasshopper, me and him, all that game of that muff like that, where you just do the head one time like that had been like all in middle school and early high school. But me and him, we actually had like a friendship doing that. So like even at the end of high school, like when people weren't doing that or didn't know about that anymore, like me and him would do that. It was just like that, because we just go back like that. But he was cold like that, and he was a dancer. And then this other person I met recently, that a server, I found out that he moonlights, and he makes a lot of people look dumb, not dumb, but he flexes on a lot of people on dance floors, and he has the moves to flex on people, and they both had a similar demeanor. But all I meant to say is that, like, what is so dope about dancers? Like I don't know, probably the coolest thing in life is a dancer. And someone who can get low, like as maybe the art par excellence. When you're all, they say that all of art, like I read somewhere recently that a lot of art is derived from the human figure. So like if you want to be great, if you want to be great at drawing, a lot of your art is gonna have to, you're gonna have to learn how the anatomy of a person, and how to draw a human being fundamentally, like hands, forearm, legs, stuff like that. And then I think maybe like other forms of art, like maybe even poetry or music, you're still yet describing a human being. Most of what is conveyed in art and music is, I would say, it's describing a human being more so. So it's similar to like visual art, where you're studying the human figure to become an artist. But then as a dancer, you're speaking through the human figure. So that might be the greater form of art from that standpoint, is that it's the art par excellence. Because if art is about the human figure, and you need nothing more than a human figure to make art, maybe a little music too that's also referencing a human figure, then you're up there with the baddest. But I wanted to say that, like, I think that it's similar between men, attraction between men and women, between men towards women and women towards men, and other attraction. I think it's largely, it's a lot of people would say it can be derived to strength. Like we are, like in evolutionary terms, we are attracted to our own survival. One could say that all we're attracted to is we're attracted to our own survival. What will help me and what is of me have the best outstanding footing in life, in life and existing. And that's a lot of what attraction can be refined to. But then I want to go further, is say that there were a couple of things I wanted to say where so I think that when you are dancing, like some of the greatest, the most attractive things you can do artistically, I would say, even beyond singing, beyond playing an instrument, would be dancing and humor. So even if you did like maybe something like a different mode of art, like writing or poetry or even music, when you can do humor in it, now you're up there in the big leagues. So it like rock star might not be the greatest star, comic star, dance star, that might be the real star. And but what I wanted to say is that I think that what is so attractive about dancing and also like humor, it's not the humor in itself, or even the wit, like the wit, the smooth moves as a dancer. That is that's kind of like, that's like more so the frosting on top of like that. That's what really that's what seals the deal, the smoothness, the creativity, the wit. But what is more attractive and strong is the stance. When you're dancing, you're conveying stances all the while you're dancing, and the smoothness is only to go between two, to connect two stances. And it's similar in humor, where when you're being humorous, you're taking stances. Like I said and that's, if I said, and that's effed up, like, and I said it funny like that. What's funny is that the way that I'm saying effed up like that it's my stance. It's like how I like damn, man. So when I say damn like that, I'm saying mercy. I'm saying like I'm saying that like I'm saying so much in that, but what's being conveyed is my stance. Like, so if I'm being more and more, the more I watch myself around cuss words, the more dry I get, but the more or less funny I think. But I think if you're really cold, you don't have to rely on cuss words. But like as I'm having this appearance, like with the way my hair looks, and then I say something like damn, like like if you like appreciate like like those old movies like Friday, where they're getting smoked out on a Friday, and then they see like someone beautiful walk by, they're like damn, man. It's the stance that they took that's so funny, because we all know a beautiful woman, but it's like their posture towards that person, they're actually deprecating in that way, because they're making it sound like this is a bad woman walking by, and I'm being humbled by how beautiful she is. And that's the beauty of what their statement is, and it's the stance that they're taking. And it's similar like with on a dance floor, is that it's I'm moving like this, but it's the stances that I'm taking. Like as the music's going, and I'm going like this. It's that stance that I'm taking right there. That's what's really communicating on the deepest level of what's beautiful. And I think that it's similar also with beautiful women, where now a woman, both dancing and not dancing, because a woman is so So a woman, there's no life without women. Both coming into life and then existing in life. There's no life without women, and there's also nothing worth living for. I think, whatever your orientation is, I think that feminine beauty is yet we can all appreciate feminine beauty, and but what a lot of that is it's actually a little bit of a conservative thing. Like if you, I would say that the order Osho says that you take a man. A man is like sometimes men, we can be childish even when we're doing the most awesome things, like, oh yeah honey, so I just got recruited as a space cadet, and I'm going to train to go float in outer space for 5 years and research the effects of gravity not being on our body, and then before we go back we're going to get to stop by the moon, and we're going to get to see where they planted that flag on the moon. And then a woman is like, and what are you going to do on the moon? It's like it's just that common sense where a lot of times some of the most beauty in a woman would be in her like her being reserved and being conservative. It is sometimes like when you contrast different things, that's where you get beauty. So even if a woman were to somewhat dress what would be crudely called immodest, it's the contrast between the immodest clothing and yet the modesty of yet being a woman, having a woman's bearing. That contrast between what is appreciated as immodesty and the inherent modesty of a woman. I think that maybe women you could say men by nature are immature until they learn how to become mature, and women by nature are modest until maybe they learn how to become modest. If I had to be, if I could get away with saying that. But all I meant to say is that I think that we have been existing for a long time, because one could say, okay, so this thing about reincarnation. So most people are happy to celebrate their birthday at any age, and you appreciate that you came into existence as you came into existence. So you were birthed at your birthday. But if that had happened in the same day, because you might have started labor like one day that moves to the next day. But when the doctor held you up and you peed on the doctor, they said I peed on the doctor. That might have been the best thing that I ever did, because I would yet do similar if I could with a lot of professionals that call themselves different titles and try to be overbearing on people, no less than a baby being firstborn. But so 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 you were birthed at your birthday, but I think you would maybe appreciate that you were conceived somewhere within 9 months before that. So when you were conceived, were you created when you were conceived? And if you were created when you were conceived, is that moment you were conceived the same moment that the universe was conceived? Is that not yet also the same moment? So is the universe existing at its own conception and at your conception and presently as one moment? Or did the universe conceive itself and then reconceive you and you're now existing? So what I meant to say is that were you once dead before you were conceived, and then you're alive, and then you're dead again, but then you think you will never be conceived again and alive again? Or were you already alive on a level before you were conceived, and your conceiving was your coming together, but you had yet existed in nobody before that? And then you have your life, and then you cease to exist. But if you had once not existed and then existed and then ceased to exist, is it not yet unfathomable that you could exist again? So I'm saying, are we dead, then alive, then dead? Are we alive, then dead, then alive, no more? And also, is dead forever? Is dead, because my understanding of dead is that you don't even experience your death because your ass is dead. You're out of here before you can have another thought about it. But that said, most people can appreciate that death is final, death is permanent, death is eternal. So therefore, if the day that on your death, the day of your death certificate, if that is your death forever, had you been, but then you were conceived 9 months before your birthday, were you not also dead before you were conceived? And was that first death not somehow permanent and eternal, as this latter death is said to be permanent and eternal? Or did you already exist somehow before this conception, and now it's your death? But then we say that's the last one right there. That had been that no, that had really been the last one. You were dead before, and then you're alive, and now you're dead again. But that had been the last one. Or you were alive all the while, and then you were dead, and then you were alive, and then you're dead, and then you're alive, and now you're dead, and that is the last one. Actually, no more times for you. So you see how it's a little bit arbitrary when you reason that that like what is carnation, what is reincarnation. Even if you were to take the approach of there being one term of office, um, without there's only two people to vote you into office and one term of office, and then maybe your dumbass choices or someone's egregious choices or just good long years yet put you out of office. But all I meant to say is that the author Arthur Avalon says that there has been no cessation in consciousness, even when we were blacking out on alcohol, even when we were fast asleep, even when we were in utero. There had always been a level of consciousness, and there shall be in this universe and in members of this universe. There has always been consciousness, and so on that level, you could say that us as a human being. I'm speaking about like women with this one. So either our ancestors have lived many iterations of life, and we can be appreciated as being our ancestors in some way. So that would have to be reincarnation in itself, just that premise. We are our ancestors. We are now living. Our ancestors had once been living, so or at least once been living, and so there had been some reincarnating in that. Even if it's just having offspring. Offspring is a nasty word. I don't like saying that. That's like a scientific word. I don't like that. But we our ancestors had descendants, and that can be a form of carnation and reincarnation. Or you could say that you yourself are you have abided as yourself on different levels prior to what you know of as your conception, and perhaps prior to after what's called your death, where you had you actually been dead before you were conceived, and then you were conceived, and then you were dead, and then if you are ever dead and permanently dead, were you ever alive? If you can be dead and be none the wiser, that would you even be aware that you had been born if you actually do die as we're taught that dying is? Did you actually even live? Did you exist? Is there existence if you can be dead? Because there's no recalling your memory. So if you can't remember something, did you? So like in the movie Men in Black, when they if you're old enough to remember, I've dated myself before when I try to make references to that film. But they had this little thing where they'll near about wipe someone's memory out by degrees, but they can wipe all your stuff out. So if you delete a file, like you're making something cool on your computer, if you delete that, did you really delete it? If you make a cool song or you write something cool and it's deleted, did you really delete? Did it ever exist? Now, what did exist if you deleted it is the memory of it, the influence of your own action, the traces in faiths that follow reincarnation. There's something called samskaras, and that's the residual imprints of our experiences, both in the present life and then in former lives, and then perhaps in future lives, as all that we are. So the way I look right now is a lot different than I looked 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But the decisions I was making at that time, who I was being, what I was thinking, it is a function of who I have always been. Yet it is new, and so the concept of me is coming along with me and responding to my experiences, my decisions, my statements, my actions, my love, my fear, my antagonism, all that. The idea of me as the real me is yet it's like, it's kind of like when you used to have that cool putty when you're a little kid. That's like the real you. It's open for interpretation, and the best interpretation is your own interpretation, and it is responding to it's molding you. You are molding yourself as you're being molded by yourself, and the only thing of consequence that can be called you is the reverberations or the imprints or the hangover, but for better or worse, of what you're doing and what you're being, and that's all constantly changing, and it's not settled. So from the standpoint of reincarnation, and even reincarnation within one life, one could say that we live many lives within one life. A year ago, 5 years ago, that was a different life for a lot of us. But all I meant to say is that, so we're always being molded by our own choices and thoughts and statements, and that's the only thing that's real. But in that, we can say that on some level we have existed for long, and we are, the more prudent we are, we can conceivably exist longer in this life, both our children and ourselves. And that's a lot of the beauty that I understand a woman to be, is that a woman on a certain level, when you perceive a woman, you can see something that is strong, that has sustained a lot, sustains now, and can sustain further, equitably and prudently and healthily. And that's a lot of the beauty that you're seeing in a woman. But it's also her stance. You can see that in her stance, the way she carries herself on or off a dance floor. It's these stances, and these stances, they speak to who we really are across our life and across lifetimes. You can't dance like another person because you haven't had the same experiences of another person. So you therefore can't make the same stances, and they wouldn't be real to you. But and that's why that's if you watch that video of me dancing, I kind of look like I got my own way of dancing, and it's just because I've had my own experiences. And so these are the stances that we take. And the most beautiful thing in life is what I'm saying is a stance. The stance of a woman, the stance of a male dancer, the stance of a comic. It's our stances that are our strongest looks, are the strongest thing about us and our strongest appearances. And therefore the most compelling thing is our stances. That's where I'm coming from. And it's also how we get through and beyond things is the manner of stance that we take. Not the least of which how we treat one another. Peace.